The Paladin is one of the most immovable pillars of the fantasy genre. Whether you picture the armoured crusader or the shining beacon of light, you know the deal. The holy warrior, the unbreakable wall, and the ultimate hybrid. In classic WoW, that reputation is legendary. While other players are constantly on the edge, watching a warrior struggle for rage, or a mage desperately blink away from a pull gone wrong, the Paladin simply stands there. Mostly the Paladin is a quintessential support class, the character who spends their time buffing the party while someone else does the heavy lifting. It's this perception of passivity that fuels the myth that leveling a Paladin is a tedious, drawn out experience. Because so much of your output comes from auto attacks rather than a frantic rotation, it's easy to mistake a methodical class for a boring one. This video isn't about pretending the Paladin is something it's not, it's about explaining the value of that pace. We're looking at the mechanical logic that makes the Paladin a model of pure efficiency, and why that boring reputation overlooks the fact that you are the most reliable, unkillable force in the leveling world. This is the next video in my early class leveling series. If you're interested in watching the others, you'll find them in the playlist linked in the corner of the screen. Now let's get into it. When you select the Paladin, you're embracing a hybrid identity defined by extreme durability and utility. You anticipate being the combat saver, the one who prevents wipes with a perfectly timed blessing of protection or a massive lay on hands. You likely expect to start as a Retribution Crusader, but you're also wary of the reputation that Paladin combat is just a passive waiting game for procs. The reality is your combat rhythm is defined by anticipation. You aren't weak, but because your power is concentrated into single heavy swings, the gaps between them can feel like an eternity. You aren't a flashy hero with a complex combo system. You're a solo survivor learning that your real power isn't in high speed button mashing, it's being an immovable object that simply outlasts everything in its path. Playing a Paladin from level 1 to 19 feels like a juggernaut in slow motion. You are arguably one of the safest solo levelers in the game, but the gameplay is famously repetitive. Because your combat loop is minimal, applying a seal and waiting for your slow weapon to swing, an average fight can feel like it lasts more than any other class. It feels longer because you aren't actively pressing buttons to fill the gaps, but the reliability of the kill is absolute. You don't have the misstreak anxiety of a rogue because your durability ensures you can always afford the time it takes for your hits to land. There is a specific comfort in the early fights. You find yourself watching your mana bar regenerate between swings, calmly taking hits that would force other classes to panic. You quickly realise that while your kill speed is fixed, you are rarely in actual danger. You aren't fighting to survive, you are simply waiting for your weapon to finish the job. At level 6 you get Divine Protection, and by level 10, Blessing of Protection. These aren't just for running away, they are tactical windows that allow you to land uninterrupted heals or use a bandage right in the middle of a fight. But the ultimate safety net is Lay on Hands at level 10. It's an instant heal that restores your health to full in a single click, but comes with a massive trade-off. It drains your entire remaining mana pool. It's a total reset of your health bar, but it leaves you resource dry for the rest of the fight. Even so, having it in your back pocket changes your psychology, allowing you to take risks that would be suicide for many other classes. In the early levels, mana is your most precious and frustrating resource. If you play it like a mage and spam every button, you'll spend half your time sitting on the ground drinking. To stay efficient, you have to work around the 5-second rule. Mana regeneration only kicks in 5 seconds after you last cast a spell. To manage this, you choose between two playstyles. The first is Seal and Coast. You simply activate your seal and never press Judgment. Your mana remains full for emergency heals, but your kill speed slows down. The second is a front-loaded loop. You cast your seal, judge it for burst, and immediately reseal right at the start of the pull. This triggers a 5-second countdown while the mob is still at high health, giving you a long window of regeneration before the fight is over. At level 14, Blessing of Wisdom provides a constant trickle of mana that fuels this momentum. While Blessing of Might offers more raw damage, Wisdom allows for a much more aggressive playstyle. It gives you the resource cushion to judge more frequently without bottoming out your mana bar. To a Paladin, efficiency isn't defined by kill speed, it's about how seldom you have to stop. Your goal is a state of constant motion, where you move from mob to mob without ever sitting down. The key to this is ending a fight ready for the next one. This means making a conscious choice to stop spending mana once an enemy is at low health. By letting your auto attacks handle the final stretch of the fight, you ensure the passive regeneration has been running for several seconds before the mob even drops. The payoff of this method becomes obvious when you realise you haven't had to sit down to eat or drink for several quests. While higher damage classes are forced to stop and recover, you are already moving towards your next objective. This is a real definition of Paladin speed. It's not about how fast you hit, it's about how seldom you stop. This is where your profession choice and utility meet. For a Paladin, first aid isn't optional, it's a mana saving tool. By using bandages to recover health during or between pulls, you save your mana for the next fight, while your health recovers for free. This efficiency is amplified by Blessing of Wisdom. While might looks better on paper for damage, wisdom is what fuels your momentum. It provides a constant trickle of resources that stays active even while you're mid-swing, ensuring that by the time you've walked to the next target, your mana pool has already recovered from the last fight. It turns a series of dangerous encounters into a single, unbroken stream of progression. A Paladin is more dependent on their weapon than almost any other class. Because your gameplay revolves around the auto attack, your weapon is the single biggest factor in your kill speed. To maximise efficiency, follow the golden rule: slow is smooth. Your goal is a two-handed weapon with a swing speed between 3.4 and 3.8. A slower weapon has a higher top-end damage range, hitting much harder and allowing you to stop spending mana earlier. While Seal of Righteousness performs fine with faster weapons, everything changes at level 20 with Seal of Command. Command is designed for slow weapons, with the percentage chance to trigger that scales with the weight of the hit. Finding a weapon with a high damage range is your absolute priority, as it ensures your auto attacks are doing the heavy lifting. It's worth noting that in Classic, weapon damage is a range, not a fixed number. A faster weapon has a narrow range, it's consistent, but it never surprises you. A slow, heavy mace has a massive ceiling. When you pair that high damage with a critical strike, you aren't just hitting the mob, you're removing it from the game. We are looking for the hammer blow that ends the fight 3 swings early. In the early game, every swing you don't have to take is money you don't have to spend. Most mistakes stem from trying to force the class into a high action playstyle that it wasn't designed for. The most frequent blunder is overjudging. Every judgment requires you to reapply a seal, which drains your mana and resets your 5-second rule. You have to resist the urge to click. Judge at the start to set your momentum, then let auto attacks do the heavy work. Another massive pitfall is ignoring spirit in favour of pure strength. While strength makes you hit harder, focusing exclusively on it leaves you with less regeneration in the leveling marathon. A slightly weaker hit is a fair trade for never having to sit down. Another subtle mistake is over-ranking your utility spells. You don't always need a max rank Holy Light to stay in the fight. Learning to use lower ranks of your heals, or even just relying on your high armour to soak damage while your mana regenerates, is a hallmark of a veteran player. Be stingy. The less you spend on unnecessary top-offs, the more you have available for that one pull where everything actually goes wrong. Finally, never fall into the trap of healing while being hit. Panic healing leads to spell pushback and wasted mana. Always use a Hammer of Justice to stun your target or retreat into your Divine Shield to heal in total safety. In the first 20 levels, the Paladin acts as a teacher for Classic WoW's most important survival mechanics. The most important lesson is that mana is for survival, not speed. You learn to front load your output, using your seals and judgment early, so that the 5-second rule can kick in while the fight is still happening. This isn't just a trick, it's a fundamental lesson in resource economy. You also learn the true meaning of hybrid versatility. Even if you are deep in the retribution tree, you aren't locked into a single role. You learn to carry secondary gear sets, keeping a few pieces of intellect gear in your bag so you can pivot to healing in a dungeon, or a shield and one-hander to tank on the fly. You aren't just a DPS, you are a toolkit for any group. The Paladin teaches you that your kill speed is almost entirely tied to your weapon, not your buttons. It reinforces the discipline of seeking out slow, high damage weapons to maximise your procs. Above all, it teaches you to sustain over speed. You learn the value of outlasting your enemies rather than outbursting them. Level 20 is the definitive coming of age for a Paladin, the reward for your patience. At level 19 you're a survivor, but at level 20 the class finally starts to feel complete. The arrival of Seal of Command changes the weight of your combat, your swings finally have teeth, and you start seeing the mob's health bars drop in significant chunks, rather than slivers. This spike is tied to the test of righteousness, a pilgrimage to assemble Verigan's fist. This journey sends you from the depths of the Deadmines, to the heart of the Horde territory in Shadowfang Keep, and into contested lands to Blackfathom Deeps. As an Alliance-only class, this is your first real taste of the faction war. You're venturing into lands with no friends and no safety nets, and walking back into Stormwind with that massive hammer on your back proves you've survived the contested world. When you finally equip this mace, you stop merely enjoying the world and start dictating the pace of every encounter. Your sustainability also peaks with Flash of Light, a mana-efficient heal that effectively eliminates the need to drink water. You aren't just a survivor in mail armour anymore, you've moved past the struggle and into the most reliable version of the class. The Paladin has a reputation for being slow, and if you're measuring success purely on the speed of a single kill, that reputation is earned. But the Paladin isn't about the sprint, it's about the unstoppable marathon. It's a deliberate, methodical experience that rewards players who understand combat momentum, the 5-second rule, and the power of a slow weapon. You aren't just playing a character who hits things, you're playing a character who refuses to fail. If your early journey felt safer, steadier, and more about managing resources than spamming buttons, you're playing it exactly right. By the time you're swinging Verrigan's fist and landing those massive Seal of Command procs, the boring reputation fades away, replaced by the quiet satisfaction of being the most reliable force on the battlefield. Did your early journey match this, or was your experience completely different? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.